we're going to get into more interesting content from Kara Mosley at Koch, who also I'm noticing is missing that fancy little FinOps badge. So hopefully we'll see that there, Kara, next time around. And not to steal your thunder of the intro, but I think you mentioned that your finance team or this specifically the FinOps work has moved a bit between finance and other parts of the tech org and whatnot. We'd love to hear part of that story if you don't mind as part of your intro, and welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you, JR. So hi, everyone. My name is Kara Mosley, and I've been working in the FinOps space for about the past 4 years now. And over the last several years, we've seen a lot of changes in how we, approach and manage FinOps within our organization. When I first got involved, it was in our IT operations team, and we made the decision to move our centralized FinOps capability into our finance organization. And as my career developed and my interest changed, I wanted to actually go from finance and learn more about IT. And so when I took the leap to go and lead a team of engineers in our cloud platform space, we moved the FinOps capability with it. And so it's been in all different parts of our organization, and we're still evolving the best way to manage our FinOps. But the practices and the learnings from this community have really helped shape the different alternatives and what the trade-offs and benefits are. But with that, I work for Koch Industries, and many of you may not be familiar with our company. And so, as a short summary, we operate globally, but are one of the largest privately owned businesses in the United States. And we operate as several different independent companies, many in the areas of manufacturing or refining or even commodity trading and software development. And the specific business that I work for is our internal shared service provider. So anything that can be leveraged between all of our different businesses is where my business steps in, and centralizing cloud management is a key area where we operate. And we started our cloud journey back in 2016 with all of our different Koch businesses migrating from our data centers to AWS. We've had a lot of different strategies along the way. And what's unique is each business has operated independently on their own strategies and own timelines, but we're all heading in the same direction together. And that's led to some key learnings and challenges along the way. And so when we first started our journey, we were really slow on the committed use discounts purchasing. After the first 6 months to a year that we'd been operating in AWS, our reserved coverage was about 12%, which was not very good. And our finance teams were really uncomfortable because we thought before we moved to the cloud, we had a bet we were going to save money by not being in the data centers, and the cloud is a lot more expensive than what we thought it would be. And so we went and sought some knowledge from other businesses that have migrated, worked with our AWS teams, and found we really weren't managing our committed use discounts the way that we should. And in our current in the model that we were in that day, each of our independent businesses and each individual application owner had the decision rights if they wanted to buy an RI for their applications. And there was a lot of hesitancy to go and purchase any RIs because we shared a lot of accounts. So if I bought an RI for my application, there was no guarantee that that RI would actually be tied to my application. And we didn't have the right incentives aligned to be successful in this model.
Kara, I was going to ask sorry about that. Kara, we were talking about this, and it's really interesting. One of the biggest fears of a decentralized rate management model is that you would become overcommitted, but you were very much undercommitted. Why do you think that was, that you were just hovering around that 12.5% coverage rate for so long?
Yeah, so one of the things that we found is we didn't align the right incentives for our individual business units to be successful. All of our Koch companies shared one payer account. And so our business had to centrally manage all of the chargeback, and an individual in one of the businesses, if they wanted to buy an RI, there was no guarantee that they would even get the discount for it. And so making that decision without manual changes to our chargeback model would actually increase their cost in their maybe cost center or their P&L, but still be the right thing for the enterprise. And so we really addressed that decision rights and the incentives are something that needed to be aligned. And so our finance team went and worked with our cloud platform organization, and we went to all of the businesses' CIOs, and we asked for the decision rights to go and purchase the RIs and committed use discounts on their behalf, and asked that they trust us to go and get them discounts and make their bill go down. And through a series of conversations, and we laid out a formal bet of what we told them we were going to save, we finally got all 11 businesses to agree and say yes. And then at that point, we realized, okay, we need to go and figure out how to deliver on this. So JR, if you go to the next slide. So we had a lot of learnings, but within the first several months of centralizing the RIs, bringing in a dedicated cloud optimization engineer and a dedicated cloud financial analyst, we were able to bring our coverage up to about 70 to 80% and sustain that coverage for a long period of time. And then when our savings plan, when AWS released their savings plans a couple of years ago, one of the advantages we found of having that centralized within our finance capability was that our finance team was able to quickly understand what the value was and make a risk adjusted bet to say, hey, we can do better than 70 and 80%. We can go to 90, 95, 99% coverage, and we're able to quickly capture savings that we'd never even considered were achievable. And since doing that, we've been able to maintain 99% coverage with very minimal waste over the last 2.5 years.
And one of the things, these charts that really stands out in these charts, you did a fantastic job of increasing your coverage, but the compute is so steady and constant. What sort of workloads were you using that you feel confident having such a high rate?
Yeah, so that's one thing that when I first started made me really uncomfortable. It doesn't look like we have good elasticity. And when I look back at our migration strategy, we did a lot of lift and shift, and so that contributed to some of the problems. But our business is also manufacturing, where we're operating 24/7 and need to have those applications and processes running. And so where we can turn off, development applications or use serverless, we've migrated those applications, but know that a lot of it is really 24/7 workloads that we have to support.
Totally makes sense. So what sort of lessons learned have you gotten from this centralization and everything that you've gone through?
We found that we had a lot of processes that were interconnected with the decisions to make RIs that really impacted our finance team and how we do chargeback internally. So for our shared service group, we do 100% chargeback. And that was one thing we had to figure out how to do as soon as we moved to the cloud. Everything had to be charged back to the businesses. And when we first started, before we centralized RIs, we did it just based on our unblended rate. And when someone did purchase an RI, we actually had an accountant going through finding out where the RI should have been applied, where did it get applied, and we're actually doing manual credit and billing adjustments to get it right, and that wasn't sustainable. And so when we centralized the RI purchasing model, we said, hey, everyone's going to get a discount. So if we have, 100 M5 larges running in our environment and we have 90% of them covered, we'll spread the discount across all 100 of them and we'll make up our own rates to do it. We'll adjust it every month. It'll be actual. And the businesses, they love that because they wanted to be sure that they got a piece of that discount and that it was fair. But it led to some really unintended consequences where all of our cloud reporting didn't have the blended rate in it. And so we heard from all of our customers is, well, we don't trust the data. We don't trust the billing. We don't trust what our cloud spend is. And the data in our Inform and visibility tools was bad. And we didn't realize that doing the right thing to get our RI discounts high enough would actually break down trust and deteriorate our other FinOps processes. And so as soon as we moved to savings plans and were able to get our coverage high enough, we went back to all of our internal stakeholders and said, hey, I don't think there's value in doing a blended rate anymore. Here's why. And once we were able to make that change and really focus on training our individuals and showing them, hey, our Inform reporting now ties to chargeback. It's going to be the same number every time. We were able to start rebuilding the trust that we'd lost in our cloud visibility tools.
That's key. That is key.
And, at the beginning, I talked a little bit about how our team has changed over time, and our roles and who we've had on the team has changed as well. So initially when we started, we thought, I just need an engineer, an analyst, and a partner from finance. And then when we moved the team into the finance organization, we said, okay, well, I don't need a dedicated finance business partner anymore. Those responsibilities can be absorbed by our FinOps analysts. And, we made a lot of good progress on the committed use discounts, but lost the connection that we had to more of the engineering and more of the technical opportunities, and found it wasn't a great long-term development opportunity for the engineer that we had sitting in our finance organization. And so we made some changes earlier this year and thought, how can we really embrace that collaborative FinOps model and almost work as a centralized product team? And so we have a team of individuals who work with our centralized FinOps capability, but they sit in different parts of the organization. We have our engineers in the engineering team. We actually have our FinOps product manager and our reporting analyst in the finance organization. And we're bringing in really key partners from across our other service lines where we didn't engage them as closely as we needed to in the past. And this is helping us identify opportunities to optimize our usage instead of our rate.
Wow. So this is like one of the great debates of FinOps land since before it was called FinOps, right? Is not only where you're talking about where it sits, but the conversation raging in the chat is about, coverage and what the right rates are and all those things. So Kara, we're a little over on time, so I'm gonna move forward, but so in the breakout, we'd love to hear, your thoughts on some of the questions in there around overcommitment. There's questions about, why no spot usage. And I think the big thing that, put on my soapbox for a minute, there's always this fear of like, we're going to buy our eyes or savings plans overcommit. Whereas what I think I've anecdotally seen the most over the last 10 years is people go the opposite way, which is they don't buy enough and they miss out on savings. And so it is a balance though, right? So thank you for sharing the story. I'd love to hear more after the fact once we get into the chat there or into the breakouts.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to FinOps.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.